Is the cat alive? Dead? Or alive dead? Or dead alive? The cat is in all three possible states, it is not alive or dead, it is in all three stages. There is a logic to this, it is a mathematical logic with three possibilities, yes, no, maybe. In business, we should always think this way, yes, no, and maybe. Only when we open the box and observe the cat will we know if the cat is dead or alive, until then no one knows. It is in all three possible states. So, the observer is extremely important, because he creates his personal reality. The fact that you observe, translate observing as wanting, as choosing. Until you want car X, such and such make, such and such color, such and such year, etc., that car will not arrive for you. It is easy to understand even in practical life, because if you go to the dealership and do not decide which car you want, how will you buy the car? You go to the dealership and say, I want car Y, and he starts to order it, and you say, wait, that's not it anymore, I think I want Z, so the salesman tears up the order. The salesman makes another order, you say no, I don't know, go back to Y, then go back to Z, or X. Do you know what the salesman will do? First you decide which car you want to buy and then I place the order. In the meantime, you're left without a car. We do this with the universe. We do the same thing, when you don't decide exactly what you want. It would be very easy, and it is, if quantum mechanics were used in every type of business, of sales, imaginable. When we think, we choose. Now, imagine the following. Your conscious mind is equivalent to 12.43% of your personality, of you. There is 87% practically underwater, called unconscious. Who is sending the wave? The 100%. Go 100% wave. So, saying, I would like to make money. I want to have clients. I want to have, is equivalent to 12%. And the rest is complaining, cursing, hate, envy, anger, jealousy, and so on, boiling down there. Life is atomic. Everything we think, everything we feel is atomic. It has an address in the brain. A group of atoms there in his mind, in a certain place. It's there, trauma from 6 years, 7 months and 8 days, it's there on the tablet. Another trauma is also there. It has an address. When you put on the CD and the resonance wave enters the person, it collides with a certain node, for example, node 1208. How does it collide? And one wave collides with the peak of the other and generates constructive interference. When energy enters an atom, the outer layer where the electrons are located becomes energized. What does an electron do? He jumps to a higher orbit, he is full of energy, because he is a guy who uses the least effort. He is always in the orbit that uses the least energy, low energy consumption. When an energy wave enters him, and every wave is energy, he jumps to a higher orbit. And what is called a quantum leap, it disappears from here and appears or reappears above. It does not travel along the middle of the path. It disappears from one point and appears at another point. Well, what did it do until it reached this second point? No one knows. This was called the non-local universe. Local is this one where we are, and non-local, it is not this one here. Therefore, there are two universes. And what Fred Alan Wolf mentions at the beginning of the film, who are we, where did this electron go? It disappeared from here and reappears here, above, in an orbit, immediately above, all energized. In terms of our psychology, it means that it opened what you thought. That nucleus, that address, which has the knot, the taboo, the prejudice, the trauma, whatever it may be, energized in metaphorical terms, opens, comes to consciousness, emerges. It is in a larger orbit. We were the ones who were putting concrete on top, non-stop, to keep it there, at its address, trauma 1208. But when energy enters it, it jumps out of the concrete, it emerges, opens, comes to the surface. Do you want to deal with this? Do you want to resolve it? Do you want to forgive? Do you want to let go? Do you want to change? Do you want to evolve? No. Because you are putting concrete on it to keep it there. It generates a shock. If the person is already convinced that, it is not worth it for me to stay this way, I want to grow, I want to evolve, simple. The moment it opens, it dissipates energy, and you do nothing with it, you do not put concrete on top, you forgive, let go, release, let it go, it loses a lot of energy and returns to the smaller orbit. Once freed, without concrete, a normal atom will emerge, there is no more trauma, no more blockage, taboo, prejudice, comfort zone, paradigm, self-sabotage, resolved. This area of your mind starts to emit a good and positive frequency, which immediately begins to attract good and positive things. It turns out that we have n of these things in our minds, billions, trillions, emitting. When the wave enters, it hits all of these things, basically, at the same time and chooses to treat the easiest ones first and the most difficult ones later, so that the person can get used to it. We say, I peeled the onion. So, take an onion and peel it. The first month, great, everyone is happy because the train has moved. The train is stopped, 70 tons of locomotive stopped and the train starts moving at 40 kilometers per hour. It's a party. The train has moved and it is assumed that the train will reach 70, 80 kilometers per hour, 150, 300 kilometers per hour, it becomes a bullet train. All of this varies from person to person. As soon as the train moves, it has peeled one of the onions, in the second month, it touches the most difficult, deep, most complex knot, and when it does, what does the person normally do? Put your foot on the brake, pull the brake. The 80-kilometer train is going at 55 kilometers per hour, and then no customers are coming in. The person says, I don't feel anything. I ask several questions, and it starts to become clear what's going on. But many people, when they return, say they are not feeling anything. Why? Because they are trying not to feel anything. In fact, as soon as the wave comes in and opens everything, and gradually removes the scabs, scab 1, scab 2, scab 3, and keep removing them, everything starts to appear. If the person lets it clean, the cleansing can be very fast, it can be done in a month, 2 months. There are people who see extraordinary results in 1, 2, or 3 months. It is exponential because the growth curve of this work gradually increases, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, and increases exponentially. When you start in the first month, you are in the second month and you have jumped to fourth. You are happy, you have progressed. How much have you progressed? You have progressed 2 points, it is a party. When it is at 256 and goes to 512, it has also doubled, but the advantage is different, the gain is astronomical, it is stratospheric. After the 6th, 7th, 10, 11, 12, 18, 20, 24 months. The difficult part is for the person to have the patience and goodwill necessary to let 1 month, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or however much is necessary to exponentiate, because it will exponentiate. It cleared 1 or 2 months, it cleared trauma, trauma, trauma. It is clearing, non-stop. Second after second it is clearing everything. Your job is to let go, let go. It got stuck. So, you go back to have it evaluated, you pull the thread, a thread here, another there. If you discover this, then let go, forgive, change, release, and that's it, you found yourself, you've released yourself. You start walking again, you get stuck again, you come back, talk, clean. It could be instantaneous, but why isn't it usually? Because there's a lot to clean. When I say clean, clean, and there's usually a lot to clean. Look at the situation on planet Earth. The formula for the situation on planet Earth is the same as the thoughts and feelings of Earthlings. If you have massacres, death, misery, disease, catastrophe, everything on one side is the same as what these people think. This is a wave that is being collapsed by these people. These people are collapsing, they choose. They are observers, they choose and create this reality. Imagine, in order to resolve this reality on the planet, how much it is necessary to clean the thoughts and feelings of Earthlings. That's why it takes so long. People are reluctant, bravely, to let go and change. If a person is patient, resonance changes everything, absolutely, because there is nothing more than a frequency, a wave. There is nothing more powerful than an electromagnetic frequency. There is the strong force, which binds the proton to the neutron. If you release the two, you release the strong force and you have an atomic bomb, for example, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. 2,994 bombs have been exploded on planet Earth to date. There are 2,994, almost 3,000 atomic bombs, that have been exploded here on this planet since 1945. Can you imagine the disaster that this would cause in the fabric, in the space-time continuum? If the sun's gravity deforms spacetime and makes the Earth spin, it gets stuck in it, because there is a deformation due to the size of its gravity, it deforms and the Earth is stuck in the attractor. When an atomic bomb explodes, where does the news of this go, where will it be reflected? Have you ever imagined? It goes to the ends of the universe and immediately there is the propagation of the wave from there, from 1945. This means that you have affected the agenda, the interests of N beings throughout the universe. So, it is something that one has to be careful about, because we have neighbors on all sides, left, right, front and back. If we make a considerable mess here, we will affect the peace of all these neighbors. Guess what? It won't be long before they will knock on the door or call the police. It is the same thing in global terms of the universe. Every time you do something like this, you affect everything that exists, because the wave will propagate. That's because you've changed the fabric of the universe, you've separated the proton from the neutron. Of course it's possible to change the weak force of gravity, but we don't know yet, and that's why there are no practical applications. However, a lot is already known about electromagnetism, but not everything. This subject that we're talking about here is taboo, and you won't find any application for it practically anywhere. Electromagnetism and Maxwell's formulas. This is the beginning of understanding the force. There's a lot more about it, both for military applications of electromagnetism and for applications in business, sports, health, education. Everything we're explaining. Energy is the same as information. It's a coin that has two sides, you can work with one side or the other. You have a particle or a wave. Right? Everything is a particle and a wave at the same time. I choose whether I want to deal with the particle chair or the wave chair. This is in Newton's physics. In electromagnetism, energy is information. Everything is either energy or information, it's the same thing. I choose what I want. Very well. You can pick up a book and read the book. Are you treating the book as particle? You picked up the chemistry book on paper, particle. But you have the wave book. So look, I can pick up 300 pages and read line by line, and what am I reading? What enters my eyes? An electromagnetic wave, which my brain decomposes and I understand what is written, but the electromagnetic wave is entering, but I decided to treat the book as a particle, so I am left with the limitations of the particle. But the book is also a wave. All the knowledge that is in the book is in the wave state. I don't need the particle book, I'll take the wave book. It's a choice. The observer collapses the wave function, and I choose what I want to deal with. Do I want to see the electron pass through one slit or two? Do I want a particle or do I want constructive interference? Physicists have already concluded that the information contained in the book remains there in the ashes and smoke of the burned book or of the entire burned library. The information remains in the burned book, in the ashes, and in the smoke that came out of it. This was published, if I'm not mistaken, in the Scientific American Brazil magazine in October or November 2009. It was a discussion 50 years ago, between Roger Penrose and Stephen Hawking, and 50 years later this statement was published in Scientific American. The information remains in the ashes and smoke. Accessing the information is another story, but physicists already know that the information is still there. And that's where physics stands still. Well, then comes the work of harmonic resonance. There is a way to capture this information and transfer it, personalized, to a specific person. That's the advantage. Everything in the universe has an address. Do you agree? Otherwise you wouldn't be able to put a robot on Mars. The Earth and Mars, both orbiting the Sun. According to Newton's calculations, you can say that in June 2011, Mars will be at a certain point. So, what you do is launch a rocket to take the robot to this point, which will be on this date and not at the current point. Up ahead, you will find the future address of Mars, and the rocket will be launched. So past, present and future are merely a reference. They are all the same thing. The wave that came from the radio that broadcast World War II has not yet left the solar system. It is still traveling, that is, it has not left because it is so big. What happens? For us, it is past, it was 65 years ago. Let's suppose that the wave is on Jupiter now. For the Jupiterians it is the present, they are watching World War II live, and for the people further up Jupiter it is the future, they don't even know if it will happen, it is the future. You noticed. We can see it because we are on a higher level, another perspective. For the people down there it is past, present and future, but if you look from above it is now. There is no past, present and future, it is just a question of distance. So, it is possible for you to collapse from being down there and come up here a little. All of this can be manipulated at the same time, past, present and future. In quantum mechanics there is no difference in this. Everything is absolutely practical in the world of money and business. It is clear that the issue of seeing the future needs to be treated with great care and caution, right? A lot of caution. Have you ever imagined the stock exchange? The remote viewers who worked there in the information games and who now give courses over the internet. They cannot speak beyond a certain point. They cannot speak or do anything. They earn money by selling the courses and stay the way they are. They cannot do absolutely anything in their lives. Why? It is known that so-and-so is a former viewer of such and such an organization, so everything he does is documented and monitored. Because there is absolute certainty that the person really sees, that he worked for them for 10, 15, 20 years. Looking from a distance. See, it is very interesting. In universities there is none of this, but in the real world there is everything. Isn't that true? In the real world, out here, everything is used, of course everything is denied, it is fiction. It's like science fiction. Do some research to see how much information there is about remote viewing. How is it possible to have remote viewing? It's only possible because everything is interconnected. Did you notice? You have the quantum vacuum, which interconnects everything, and it is through this medium, let's say, that it is possible to see, at any distance and at any time. It's just a question of reference. Okay. Quantum mechanics goes beyond common sense, there are many experiments that show it. What is needed is to draw conclusions, not just manufacture telescopes, cameras, iPods, right? Manufacture all the paraphernalia, and that's it. What about the rest of our lives? And the other possible applications? Now imagine that you need the knowledge of the financial director to manage your investments, you need a store manager, administrative director, MBI course, anything, any information. All information remains forever. The information that is recorded atomically never disappears, it is intrinsic to the electromagnetic field. If you take the book, the atomic book has an electromagnetic field, because it has protons and electrons. This electromagnetic field has all the contents of the book, forever. The electromagnetic field of a given person has all their thoughts and feelings forever. There is a recorder with play rec on all the time, forever, eternal. Everything recorded, everything. And everything attracts, sends, returns all the time. Any information is available. Any. Now, what do you ask for? In fact, very little is asked for. Very few people ask for information. People ask for results, to increase their clients, a house, a car, an apartment, a plane, a yacht, a helicopter, to travel, to pass a public exam, etc. Results. The result only comes if you change your electromagnetic field. To get the result, I put a wave with information that changes the person's electromagnetic field, to attract the clients you want. There is a camera recording, it records everything for the history of the universe. Documentation. And there is another camera recording the personal file. The personal file can be cleaned. It puts energy in, acts on the problem, energizes the atoms, the electrons jump out of orbit, loses energy, forgives, lets go, cleaned, the knot is removed, changed your mind, solved. But in our view, this has a before, a now, and an after. He was like that, he had prejudice X, he put the wave on him, he wiped the prejudice and now he is clean. Now, his store is full of customers. But, this little story had prejudice, he wiped the prejudice, now it is full of customers, the little story is recorded in this camera. It has the universal history. See, he also has this history recorded in him. Because everything needs to be thought through beforehand. The guy did the deal, we put a wave on the person and it was cleared. But, what was he like before? Did he disappear? We don't know anymore, will he lose the information? But, the information is never lost. Therefore, we have to have files on him. He has to have layers of files. He has to have HD1, HD2, HD3, several HDs. It is recorded in a file, resolved, it is moved to a temporary one. And the same thing that our operating system has, it goes to the recycle bin. If it is deleted, it goes to the recycle bin, it is still there. Are you sure? So, you delete the recycle bin. In the case of humans, what happens? You need to have these files and they must be separate. One thing is what he thinks and another thing is what he feels. They are separate areas, activities. He has an emotional body and a mental body. Everything he thinks is recorded in the body, in his mental HD. Everything he feels is in the other body. We have 4 bodies, let's say, physical, in our experience and 3 in a higher dimension. You delete these 4 below, but there are still 3 higher files that are recorded. You clean them up, but the history is recorded forever. But, to manage all these issues, and that is what created the 7 bodies. For this reason, it is not to complicate things, it is the need to manage. The person has to think, it is a file, he has to feel, it is another file. Everything can be erased, there are 4. There is a body and a double, where there is the energy store, let's say. You have a physical body, you have savings from it, because when it arrives here, in this dimension, all charged with energy, it starts to be spent in the physical body. It takes from this double body, the chi, the ki, the prana, the cosmic energy, etc., it passes from the double to the physical. It is spending and keeps withdrawing. That is why, when you are 20 years old, it is an excellent time, there is a lot in the checking account to withdraw, if you do not know how to use it, it will run out later. You can replenish it, but that is another story. Normally, people do not know how to replenish it, it is extinguished. The person gets old and dies. Why? Because there is no control over this. If 90% of our atoms are replaced every 3 months, that is, in 3 months 90% of a certain person's atoms have been replaced. But, he enters this room and everyone recognizes who he is. Let's suppose in another 4 months, he is new, because he loses 90% every 3 months, in another month he has already lost everything. He has 100% new atoms. And since he has the same appearance, the same personality, everything is the same, he has a past, a present, he remembers everything. Where is this information? If all his atoms were replaced? This is physics. It is measurable. Did you notice? There needs to be another place to store his information. And this is called the morphogenetic field, Rupert Sheldrake, English biologist. The morphogenetic field is the field that gives shape to the person. The shape of a person is not in the physical, obviously, it is not in the physical DNA, nor in the physical genesis. Everything has to be in the DNA, in a dimension above, in the person's morphogenetic field. This has been proven by several experiments. Now, for it to become a scientific practice, it is complicated. Why? Because it depends on the dominant interests. Who defines the curriculum, who defines the research budgets, who defines and allows the salaries, etc. There is what is called a community, right? What will be taught in the first year, second year, third year in schools? There are 4 or 5 people who meet in the ministries and decide, exclude philosophy or include philosophy, exclude Latin, exclude this and include this subject. Was there a consensus, vote, or something similar to decide which subjects to teach, how, when, where? Decided by half a dozen people. If half a dozen agreed that we will no longer teach it. End. This is the case of quantum mechanics. 100 years later, we still have no idea about it. In fact, most of the world's population has no idea that atoms exist. The next time you go to the mall, go to the cafe. Do some scientific research. Ask the waitress who serves you coffee, do you know what an atom is? Ask her. In fact, she has no idea what an atom is.